Hey everyone, welcome to Morbid Visions. I am Morbid, and tonight we're going to kick off another sub-series here on Morbid Visions. Morbid Visions, the numbered episodes, basically general horror topics, the Laserdisc episode, the horror magazines episode, and stuff on Morbid Vision films. Then we have the general top fives, just the random top five videos on different movies and recommendations and everything. And now what we're going to start doing tonight, I'm going to call this Morbid Vinyl. These will be lists or just topics on albums, horror related, non-horror related, mostly music. It'll be mostly music. But tonight what we're going to do is I'm going to talk about vintage Halloween vinyl. I only just started collecting these a couple of years ago. It's something I've always been into, but they're very hard to find. I mean, you can order stuff on eBay, but for some reason, I didn't want to go the eBay route when it came to Halloween vinyl. It's just something very fun and exciting about coming across one in the wild, as they say. You're in one of those novelty stores, or there's a store here in my hometown. It's mainly a comic book store, but they carry a large section of vinyl. And every once in a while, I'll be going through a section. Sometimes it's in the kids section. I went through the kids section, all of a sudden, boop, there was a Halloween album. Like, yes, awesome. And what's cool about the Halloween vinyl albums is they're not really expensive. It's not like trying to find certain music albums. I'm into Japanese vinyl at the moment, collecting those, and those get really pricey. I just paid a lot for one, especially if it's coming from Japan. The shipping alone is like a whole nother price of an album. But these you can find at very good prices. I mean, literally, I think one of them in here I paid $1 for, which is awesome. Find them at yard sales. I haven't found any at yard sales. Mine were mostly in stores, specialty stores. I lucked out big time with a bunch of these here. So yeah, so let's just start getting through these. Again, these are mostly from like the 60s and the 70s. They don't really do it as much. I don't think they do it at all anymore. So yeah, let's just take a look at these. And hopefully some of these will trigger memories for some of you guys. Maybe you'll have forgotten all about that. You even owned one of these albums as a kid. And so hopefully we'll have some fun with this. I got really lucky. I bought like 9 albums at Purchase Street Records in New Bedford, Mass. It was October. He got a hold of a bunch of them. He put a lot out, and they were all great priced. All of them were just somewhere $5, $10. But here's one of the best ones. One of my favorite ones. This one's called Night in the Graveyard. I actually bought the cassette of this. I remember I bought this at Record Town, and it's a really good one because a lot of them, what they end up doing is just like random sound effects, which can be a little tedious. But this one is just not at least side one is complete just horror sounds, and this one starts off really cool. It's just you hear the wind, and you can hear trees like branches just slowly creaking, and that's how the album starts off. And then it slowly builds up. In the distance, you start hearing like demons or some creatures howling in the background. And then it'll start to progress more and more as it goes on. But yeah, this one's a really cool one. What the back of it looks like. Apparently, it was filmed on Count Dracula's estate. Yeah, sure it was. It's very hard to read on the back. Down here, it starts to fade out. I believe it says 1985, which is kind of new for these things, but that does make sense because I bought the cassette brand new at a record store. So it's a good chance that does say 85. So this is actually not really, really old. Still old, but not really, really old. Yeah, the label's not much to look at. Label seems pretty new too, which also, yeah, I'm pretty sure that says 85. This one's just ghost stories. Fun one, interesting. Little short ghost stories. Again, geared towards kids. What's cool about these mostly, it's actually the cover art is actually the best part of a lot of these albums. I mean, the cover art is just, I always saw like pictures of these. I'm like, oh, I'd love to get a hold of that. And then when you see it in the store, it's like, oh, there's that album. That's awesome. Back of the album's really colorful. Back of the album's kind of weird. But yeah, so this is another good one. I got this one really cheap. I think this was only $5. Found this at the novelty store in my hometown. I think this was the one where I was going through the kids section, and it was the last album. And I was like, oh, cool, awesome. Alfred Hitchcock's Ghost Stories. It's cool. He he like hosts the album. I think he only really hosts at the beginning, at the end, or whatever. But then the back's nothing. It's just a catalog of the other albums. But again, really cool artwork. It just, yeah, that's the cool part of these things. And it's the nostalgia of it. This next one, I have 2 copies of it. Yeah, all right. This was another one I just happened to find at that novelty store, the comic book store in my hometown. It just very simple, ghostly sounds. This one, instead of just, again, it's not one of those ones where it's just sound effect after sound effect after sound effect. It is broken up by like different type of sound effects, but they do like a 2-minute, each one's 2-minute segments, I think. First one's called The Vampire's Castle, 3 a.m. horror. So they make like a little short story with sound effects. So this one's fun. I had this playing one night when I was working on editing. I was editing Septic one night, and I just had this on in the background. And it's just cool to have on in the background. This is one of the better ones that doesn't have a lot of annoying sounds. Cool back with the haunted house. Those are all the different segments there. I'm not sure when a lot of these don't have dates, surprisingly. That's a pretty cool label there. A little bit more detailed than what they normally are. So, yeah. This is just fun. Actually, you know what? No, I just realized. I think I first bought this at Purchase Street Records with the big lot that I end up buying. And then I found another one at the store I go to in town. And I can't help it. You see it in the wild, it's just like, oh my god! Oh, then you're like, oh, I have it. I'm like, I don't care, I'm buying it. So I just happen to have 2 copies of this one. Mainly because I couldn't resist. When I see it out there, it's like, you just have to buy it. Because they're so rare. It's like, you hardly ever see these things out there. This one as well, I have 2 copies of. Mainly because the first one, both of them have the original shrink wrap still on it. But this is a very popular one, actually, amongst collectors. Sounds That Make You Shiver. This one's a very popular one. Great artwork. I mean, you can sit here and look at there's so much going on in this cover. Hopefully you can see this all right with, the plastic still on it. But, yeah, so this was a very popular album. If you go online, you see a lot of people always talking about this one. This one is just more of the random, sound effects and everything. There's 2 different versions of this one. No, I'm not going to bother taking that out. Never mind. So I first found this one, and yeah. It was just in, they've got a bin where it's just all random stuff. I guess it's stuff where they just don't know what to do with it. And I'm flipping through, and it was the second album. I was like, oh my god, no way. And it was only $1. But then I found out it was only $1 because it's warped. It's got one really bad warp in it. But at the time, I didn't care. I'm like, I don't care. It's the artwork. It's the idea of owning the album. And it's just, it's just so cool. Very nostalgic. Like 60s and 70s horror artwork is just so much different than it is today. It's just very creepy. Just had a certain vibe to it. But I bought it simply just to have it. Just to put it in my collection. And then when I found all the other ones at Purchase Street Records, I found another one. And then this one plays perfectly. I don't remember how much I paid for this. Again, it was probably like $8 maybe, because it is in really nice condition. Alright, yeah, so this one is the black label with a white skull. Apparently there's another version which is more rare, and I guess I mean, these things aren't very expensive, but I guess the other one, I can't remember exactly what. It might be yellow. That one's more rare. Maybe it was the first press of it. And that one's apparently a little more money. Again, I found this at Purchase Street Records. Disney's, just called Haunted House. So yeah, just very cool artwork. You know, you get the nice creepy haunted house. And, you know, it's... For Disney, it's... I guess for little kids, it could be considered scary. It's got a lot of good stuff. Basically, you know, night creatures, haunted house, the dungeon, the witches. This, again, one of the ones where they'll do like a short segment, maybe like 30 seconds to a minute of continuous types of sound effects for each type of subject that they list on there. But yeah, this is a cool one. Oh, yeah, see. You remember Disneyland, those old albums. I remember my sister had some albums from Disney. And as soon as I just saw that just now, I was just like, wow, just flashbacks of being a kid, you know, listening to different stuff. Never had these, though, as a kid, though. I wish I did, but I don't know why. It's weird because I was like, ever since I can remember, I was always huge into Halloween. I love Halloween time. And I'm just surprised I never got a hold of any of these albums. Another one, again, another Disney album. This is the more popular one. You know, this one's also called The Haunted House. They're actually they both say chilling, thrilling sounds of the haunted house, but they've got different track lists, so these are different albums. Now this one has like 3 different versions that have been out. Again, I found this, actually, I just remembered the comic book store in my town. It was the last day they were really open during 2020. It must have been the beginning of March or towards the end of March or something. And it was a Saturday. I just happened to go. I wanted to check some stuff out because things were starting to close. And I'm like, I just want to go somewhere and look at stuff. And apparently I followed another guy in. And apparently they were only letting people in who were coming to pick stuff up. But the guy knew who I was. And he was like, don't worry about it. It's fine. So I'm like, all right, yeah, I won't stay long. I just wanted to check stuff out. I go to that random section where I found the other Halloween album, and then flip, and then boom, there's that is. I'm like, oh, awesome, perfect. And again, this is, it was $1. Again, another one just for $1. And the guy's like, oh, I just put that out. He goes, I've got like 5 of these things. I figured I'd put one out, just to get rid of it. And so I told the guy, I'm like, well, thanks for letting me in. I go, this album just made my day. So thank you. I don't think this one has anything. Yeah, see, though, there's another different Disneyland label. Now, there's another one where it's actually a little bit more expensive, and I've had watching one on eBay for a few months now. I got to pick it up at some point. It's this one. It's the same thing, but the orange pot is white, and the jacket, not the jacket. Well, yeah, the inner sleeve has all Halloween tips on it. How to do a haunted house, what different ideas for a Halloween party and everything, which is really cool. It's illustrated and all that, so I want to get that. So eventually, I'm going to try to get I'm going to buy. Hopefully, if it's still there, I'm going to buy the white album cover with all the extra stuff inside. I think this one might have been about $10, but again, another one, just really cool artwork. Just this one's a little more comic bookish, but again, really cool stuff. It still has the original plastic on it. That's kind of ripping off. Hopefully you can see this okay. But yeah, cool illustrations with skeletons, leading some type of a ogre or something. I don't know. But again, just fun when you see this in the store. Because I had seen this one. I had listened to it a couple of times on YouTube, and that artwork always just stood out to me. So then as I'm flipping through the albums at Purchase Street Records, all of a sudden I'm just like, oh, no way, there it is. So just grabbed it. I'm like, I had to have it. I don't know what the date is. This one's like from the 60s, I believe. This is a Peter Pan album. If any of you guys remember Peter Pan albums. So, oops. The white label, Peter Pan. So, obviously kids' albums. This one gets a little goofy. I remember this one had some. It's got some stupid music that shows up in it, and I think they got some. One thing I always hated on some of these albums, I think this one does it, is they start introducing some sci-fi sounds. Like all of a sudden they get the like the beep 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 stupid stuff, and it's supposed to be like aliens. I don't know why aliens are ever associated with Halloween, but I'm pretty sure this album ends up doing it. But that's a fun one still. This one's a really cool one. I was very happy when, again, Purchase Street Records. I think, like I said, I think I bought 9 of these that one day. It was like I just like mega haul. I was just so happy when I found all these things. And so, Halloween Horrors, love that album, the artwork on the album cover. The haunted house in the background. It's just so cool. And then, so basically what is side one is the first side of the album is, I think it's like a 15-minute, 20-minute Halloween story. It's just a guy who inherited a mansion, and he's driving there to try to find it, and it's Halloween night. He's like, oh, it's super creepy. It's Halloween night. It's got all the sound effects and everything, thunder and lightning. He's driving in a thunderstorm. So it's fun. It's just, you can find it on YouTube. I think most of these albums you can find in their entirety on YouTube. But again, it's the artwork. It's just the novelty of owning these things are just so cool. Then side 2 is just all random sound effects. Now, what's interesting about this one is, again, as soon as I see these witches sitting here, when I was a little kid, I used to stay over my cousin Mike's house all the time. He's actually the same cousin he actually got me into horror movies. He got me into, Kiss, Black Sabbath, Ozzy, Van Halen, all that stuff. So, I don't remember what it was. For some reason, we just wanted to start, we were joking around about ghost stories, and, he had his tape recorder, like, why don't we use the tape recorder and we'll make up a ghost story. No, that's what it was. He got given an audio cassette of an old radio show. It was like one of those mystery shows, and it was a really cool story where a guy it was like a robber ended up breaking into this woman's house, and it was creepy. We enjoyed it, and we listened to it a couple times. He played it to me, and that's when we decided, let's make our own. We actually did one. We just made it up as we went along. 2 kids playing baseball, and the ball goes through the window of the old house in the neighborhood, and we end up going in there. We're all scared, and we're just making our own sound effects and everything. Just making stupid sound effects on our own with our just with our mouths, not not finding stuff to make sound effects or anything like that. And I still have that. I have the audio cassette of that. 3/4 of it, right at the end, I must have grabbed it by accident once, and I started recording, so all of a sudden Judas Priest just kicks in right during part of the story. But I still have the original one. Maybe I'll do an episode with that original story. But I think we did that one. We might have did another one, and then my cousin's like, let's go to a store and let's buy a Halloween album, because these things were actually available through most of the year. Actually, they weren't just out around Halloween time. And it's like, let's go get a sound effects album. And so we went and we bought this album. I don't remember the front cover, but whenever I look at this, I remember these witches around it. So we made a story about, I think we were fishing, and somehow our canoe or whatever capsizes, and we went underwater, but then we ended up going underwater, and also we just ended up in this cave where we could breathe. There was no more water. Once you get in, there was no water. And what we did was, as we were doing it, we'd play the album. And I remember we were going through it, and he took a highlighter and highlighted on the album like all the best sound effects and everything. I remember there was witches, and there was witches down in the cave. And so we were talking about a certain point. And then also we played like the witches cackling from this album on our little story. That I don't have. I don't know what happened. Maybe that was one of his cassettes. The first one was on one of my cassettes. But yeah, I don't have. That's the only one I have. I don't know what ever happened to that one. But this is the beginning of my storytelling, was making our own little fake radio mystery horror plays. So we actually had this as a kid. He bought it. I didn't have it, but and we used this album to do sound effects for one of our short stories. So this one's cool. Not the second side, but if you look for this on YouTube, you can listen to the story. I listened to it a few times around Halloween time. Just fun. Alright, and this last one I'm going to show. Oh, this one's really cool. I had never heard of this one. I had never seen this one. But this was, I think this one was $20. I got this at Purchase Street as well, with all the other ones. But once I flipped through, I'm like, oh, I got to have this. This is really cool. So, a story of Dracula, Wolfman, and Frankenstein. I thought it was 3 separate short stories on this. Turns out it's just one long story where they incorporate them all as an original story. It's actually really cool. But what's cool about this one is, again, I think this is Peter Pan. I think I just saw that on the back. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, cool artwork on the back of the 3 monsters. But again, I'll take the album out. Yeah, Peter Pan. So, again, the kids' album label. But it's a read-along. And it's actually done really well. Come on. I'm having trouble. It's sticking. So, the whole thing's a read-along comic book. And it's really well done. I mean, look at that. The artwork's awesome. This is very, very cool book. I'd never heard of this one. I never came across it on eBay when I put in Halloween albums, but very nicely done. So I finally listened to it and I read along with it. It was fun, and it was actually a decent story. I was surprised. It was cool how they incorporated all 3 monsters in it. Then I guess the werewolf. This is a good amount of pages. This is at least, 10 to 12 pages long. So, I was really glad. I started flipping through this at the store. I wasn't going to grab it, but when I saw the comic book aspect of it, I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm going to grab this one. Because it was $20. I wanted to get as many as I could without spending a lot of money. Well, I mean, I just still spent a lot of money, but to get as many as I could with the money I was going to spend. But, yeah, I was very happy with this one. Great stuff. More cool stuff with the werewolf. So it's funny they put this much work into it. When this came out, whatever year, I couldn't find a date on this one, but whatever year this came out, this thing was probably what, $5, $7 probably at the most. Introduce Dracula. So yeah, this is a very cool album. So I'm glad I grabbed this one. I almost didn't because this one was $20, whereas all the other ones were, the most expensive was maybe $10. So yeah, this is fun. So these are just fun to have. Nostalgia reasons, just cool to have in a collection. Just mainly because these are things you just don't see anymore, and no one makes them anymore. Even though albums are very popular again, still no one's doing. I doubt anyone will ever put stuff out like this again. So it's a nice piece of historical Halloween novelty. So I mean, if you're really into Halloween time and really just, horror lovers alone, I mean, this stuff's just fun. The artwork is just really cool. So yeah. So these are a bunch of Halloween vinyl I got within the last 2 years. 2 years, yeah. I decided I was going to stop looking for them. After I found one, I'm like, oh, I'll find more. Again, you can find these on eBay for, some of them can maybe, some people might be charging like $30, $40 for them or whatever. But you can get these, you can actually collect these things for a decent price, unlike some other stuff. But yeah, these are pretty good. But if you don't want to collect them, just check them on YouTube. A lot of these are on YouTube. This one's even on YouTube, but I don't know if I think it's under a different picture of this one. But this one's fun. Like I said, it starts off really creepy. It's fun to fall asleep to. I've fallen asleep to this. Well, I did the cassette. It wasn't the album, but I fell asleep to this so many times when I was younger. When I bought the cassette, I just put that on. You'd hear the wind starting to lightly blow, and then the creaking of the branches and everything. Then you hear the demons off in the distance. So, yeah, good stuff. All right. So that was the first segment of Morbid Vinyl and started off in a good way. Just vintage Halloween creepiness. All right, I hope you enjoyed this. If you enjoyed it, like it, and please subscribe to Morbid Vision Films. And we're gonna bring you even more Morbid Vinyl coming up soon. Thank you.